Welcome to Heather Ewing, the CRE Rundown. Today we are taking a new route. I have none other than Scott Browning with me today, and we are going to really delve into the importance of endurance athletics with commercial real estate. So you've heard me talk over time about it. I've got the pro with me today.
Mhm.
Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Definitely. So we connected through LinkedIn. And what I loved, obviously, was the marathoning, the endurance, everything that goes into endurance athletics. And what I really want to highlight, one is your journey, how you got into it. And as we go, of how it relates to careers where there is a lot of competition, where timing matters, and all these different factors, such as commercial real estate and so many more. So, Scott, how did you get started? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief because it can be long-winded. But the gist of it is, I started as a swimmer, as a youth. That was a Browning required family activity. That not really endurance sport because I was a sprint swimmer. Rose to national level swimming, transitioned to do some bike racing because my oldest brother was big into cycling, and so I wanted to sort of emulate that. And then sort of fell backwards into running as far as I was looking for an alternative. Had injured a shoulder during swimming, and I sort of went out and did this first run. I was like, oh, this was really super cool. On a footnote on that, I got into marathoning. I had lost my father at a young age. He was an
I'm
FBI
sorry.
agent killed in the line of duty.
Wow.
And so I decided, he had mentioned, like, when I was like 14 years old, he's like, "Oh, Scott, you should run a marathon someday." And I didn't think anything of it because I didn't even know what one was, right? You're 14. I was like, although I
Right.
was reaching the peak of my intelligence, but as a teenager. But after he had passed, I sort of revisited it when I started running. I was like, maybe I should run. Maybe I should run a marathon. And so I did. When I was 18, I did my first marathon down in St. George, Utah, and that just started a love affair with the sport. Competed, still competing, but made an attempt at the Olympic trials. Didn't quite get there, but really delved into like super competitive, high mileage running. Raced every distance from 5,000 meters all the way up. Yeah, so that's how I got into it. Still in it.
That's great. So, question for you, high mileage,
Yeah,
right? Because for me, high is right now, I'm training for Chicago, is 46. I don't think I've ever ran that much, right?
yeah,
Um, I'm in my early 50s.
yeah.
And so, at that level, what is high mileage?
So I was upwards of 145 miles a week. So most average weeks were right between 90 and 120 a week. Um, so
Gosh.
yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot of running.
How
it's
do
a
you
lot of
recover from
running.
something like that? Like,
Not
what
well.
was the recovery plan?
Yeah, that at that point in time, there wasn't a lot of recovery. We take downtime during the season. At the end of the season, we take time off. But the coach that I was using at the time, he was pretty old school. I mean, this was back in the 90s and early 2000s, and
Right.
um, we didn't do a lot of recovery like this. If you were to write a script of what not to do, that was more or less what I was following, right? It's like, you
Right.
work, you work, you work, you work, but you miss the
Right.
second part of the equation, which is the recovery side. I learned that many, many years later, through, obviously through my own experience, but also
Mhm.
through education. So, it's like, without that piece, you end up hurt. And I was, like I said, I was super fast, but
Right.
I also courted a lot of injuries.
I bet, which then equates to downtime and things like that. Yeah, if you think about it,
Forced
there definitely
downtime.
were not the Normatec 3 legs and things like that, right?
Yeah, no, there were none of that existed. But like, I did a
Right.
lot of massage therapy, I did a lot of yoga, things along those lines. But it was a really constant push for just more volume, more volume, more volume. And so I did a lot. I did a lot of that.
Definitely. And so when it comes to, obviously, training is one huge segment and the build, one mindset, and then there's also the shift to the marathon itself. How do you see the differences of that, right? And what's similar, what's different in your mind?
As far as shifting over to the marathon, or as
Mhm.
far as how does training apply to getting ready for the marathon? What's so
I
sort
would
of
say the
feed me the
mindset, right? The
yeah.
mindset of what remains in your opinion and what changes.
Yeah, I think the marathon mindset is one that's and if you've never done one, it's like it's hard to describe to people.
Mhm.
One, it's super like it's such an amazing feeling and accomplishment. But as you're getting ready for it, is there you what I think takes people off guard with the marathon is the sort of the darker periods of the race that set in where you sort of question like, okay, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. And I've been on the higher end of the performance spectrum, where I'm done in 2.5 hours. But and I've
That's
been on the
great.
longer end of the spectrum too. It doesn't matter how fast you're running, you still face that. And I think where that mindset is you have a choice at any given point during the marathon is do I continue or do I quit? Right.
Mhm.
And that is to me is where the marathon mindset comes in is how are you responding to that choice? Right. What's the what choice? So the dog had to go inside. So and to me that's the training gets you ready, is sort of ready for that. But at any given point, you're going to have to make a decision as to how you're going to proceed on the course. And a lot of people quit, right? I mean, that's part of it. As far as training for it goes, I think that's what you're training for, right? You're learning to be uncomfortable. Because the marathon in and of itself is an uncomfortable event. And what training does, from both a mindset perspective and a physical perspective, is it teaches you what being uncomfortable is and prepares you to be uncomfortable for a very long period of time. Just sort of fond of saying is you have to be comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable, right? So anyway, that's sort of a long-winded answer.
No, I love it though, and I think it's so true. And I think also part of the harrowing part of the last several miles of a marathon is you can also see where people's hydration or fueling really is no longer paying off or was not adequate. And they're going down
Mhm.
with the leg cramps and screaming and different things of that nature, where it's, you know what I mean? It you can't help but take that in as you're going through.
Well,
And
you
of course,
definitely see the results of poor preparation or poor race prep. And sometimes, there are things beyond people's control, but oftentimes, more
right.
often than not, it's either a lack of respect for the distance, which oftentimes happens, or a lack of respect for the processes that you need to use in order to be ready for those closing miles. Because the opening miles are all relatively easy, right? It's like, oh, this is, but it's, if you have laid the groundwork in your fueling and hydration in particular, because ultimately the marathon is a fueling event. That's what it is, right? That's the difference between having a good race and a bad race is how well you manage that component. I mean, how quickly you go out also impacts that. But
Definitely.
you definitely see where like the fueling part is the critical piece, right? And
Mhm.
I use the philosophy fuel early, fuel often. And it's also things that you have to practice in your training, right? And so what you see is people that finish well or have really strong finishes is the product of executing processes that they practiced, right? Nothing is new. Like and that there's when I talk about like transition to lessons is building appropriate processes and practicing those processes and reflecting on whether those processes are serving you or not, right? That's all
Mhm.
part of your training. And that's where you see like you're coming in strong at the finish, you're having a good finish in your marathon is the product of developing, and refining processes as you go through the training process.
Definitely. What would you say, like, is there a motto or anything like when you're getting to those choice points, right? Because I agree completely. I think a marathon offers so many choice points where it comes down to how bad you want it, right? In
Mhm.
that sense. Is there a motto or is there something that you focus on to help you move through those challenging miles?
Yeah, I think that this is where I think that the psychology part of it is super important, and I struggled with this early in my career, my racing career. I ended up working with a sports psychologist to help me deal with the negative self-talk that comes with it, because
Mhm.
inevitably you are going to encounter that. Even like the world greats, they'll say
Definitely.
the same thing. It's like, oh man, it got really hard. And yeah, so for me, the first step is to acknowledge that's where you are. Is don't turn away from it. Yeah, don't turn. It's like I shouldn't be feeling this way. I've fit. I've trained this, that, and the other. You're like I shouldn't feel this way. Is the second you put up a wall to it and you resist against it, is it becomes you acknowledge it. Okay, I'm hurting, right? And that's the very very first step. It's like I'm hurting right now. So uh, that's okay. I prepared for this, and now I'm going to
Mhm.
take the next step. And that's all you do is acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge where you are, and then it allows you the freedom of making that choice of moving forward. But if you resist it and you try to fight against it, it just magnifies, it just explodes. It's like it's okay to be hurting, right? That's part of
Right.
it. What you
Exactly.
choose to do in that moment, right? Once you've acknowledged that, then you've given yourself
Hmm.
the freedom to make that choice. It's like I'm going to slow down a little bit, or it's like for me, it's like left foot, right foot. I'm just going to keep moving. I recognize
Yeah.
this is where I am. Yeah, it's not a whole lot of fun right now, but you know what? Quitting isn't an option, so I know I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to
Yeah.
keep moving. And people say embrace the suck, but I don't think that really. I don't think that really. I don't embrace it. It's like I just acknowledge what it is. It's like okay, I'm uncomfortable right now. You know.
Exactly. Think of the end and how good that's going to feel,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. And then I break it down into small timelines, right? It's like if I'm
Hmm.
22 miles in, and it's like yeah, that can seem like when you're having a bad day and you're 22 miles in, 4 miles can seem like like you're just at the starting line again. But
Right.
you break that into usable pieces. It's like okay, I've done this before. Like I know I've run 4 miles a day, so I'm going to run for 30 minutes and that's all I have left, or 40 minutes, whatever your benchmark is for times. Or for
Right.
me, I'll break it down even further. It's like hey, all I got to do is get to 24, then I've got this in the bag. So
Yeah.
you keep things in manageable chunks. I will say the big thing is like when you take a look at events like this that are really long, is don't get ahead of yourself, right? Don't get yourself to the finish line before you're actually there, right? This is the moment that you're in. This is the space that you're in right now. Stay in that space as much as you can and try not to get too far outside of it.
Do you think that's why a lot of people struggle with running is that you have to be present?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially in today's society where it's like things move so quickly and running doesn't move
Right.
very quickly, right? I mean, as you oh yeah, for sure that plays a role. Yeah. Yeah, you
Definitely.
have to be present. Actually,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say present is a relative term. It's like running is the space for me to allow my mind to do all the things that it doesn't get a chance to do during the day. It's like I have the most random stupid thoughts when I run. It's hilarious. And if you could record the inner dialogue, like I've solved all of the world's problems, I've solved everything in the course of like 45 minutes of running. It's like it's a space to in that rhythm of movement is I find peace and I find that free flow of thought that is just there's so many other spaces in life that you can't get that, and running opens that door. And that's for me. I mean, that's I would suspect that you've been running long enough that you have probably felt some of that.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm training for my 10th marathon. It was funny. My first one was in my late 20s. Hated it. I said never again. I waited 17 years.
Yeah.
I say I'm a little better, the mindset is different now over time.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love it because I see it as the same thing of it. It's like the truest connection to yourself. Like I feel like I am coming home to the most pure aspect of
Hmm.
myself. And to your point, things pop up from childhood, from future ideas to this, and I solve different, deals of like, oh, okay, if we go in with, collaborate on this deal point, or if we take it here. And so I agree. It's like a sacred time, and why would you ever miss that? And I think if people are able to get to that point, they'll fall in love with it. Like you obviously have and made a career of it, and I do it, within my life. But is there a tip that you would suggest to help people bridge that gap into finding, if you want to say, the essence of endurance running?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is people think because running is a very natural activity that human beings should be able to run, is
Mhm.
people don't respect that it's a learned skill. It's like learning any other sport, whether it's tennis or football or basketball or anything else. There's a process to learning it. And most
Mhm.
people aren't patient enough to go through that. Is all of the like the beginning road run programs I use are based on run walk progressions and starting with only 1 minute of running, and then you walk for a minute, and we build this in over a course of 8 or 10 or 12 weeks. So sort of the classic couch to 5K, but those programs work because you're teaching the body what you want it to do. Yeah, inherently we can all run, but running for longer periods of time, there's a learning curve that's involved in that. And most people don't take the patience to do that, right? Or they just don't. It's like, I should be able to do this. And they go out and run a mile without stopping, and then they're just done for, then they hate it. It's miserable. It was
Right.
never any fun. And then they don't give themselves the ability for their body to adapt. And if you can do that, if you can get past the first 2 months, which a lot of it does suck. It's not a lot of,
Right.
it's a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
things hurt, you're achy, it's like you're out of breath, you turn bright red, all the things that go along with being, yeah, it's terrible. Like, it brings you back to like junior high, right? It's like, go run a
Yeah.
lap, right? You're in trouble. And a lot of people actually have those negative stigmas associated with running. So you have
Right.
to take the time and work through the process slowly, like really slowly. And then at one point it's going to click. It'll switch over, and it'll be like, you'll finish this run. You're like, oh my gosh, that might have been the coolest thing I've ever done. And you feel free. And I think we are getting back to your thought processes, is like, the best thing about it is there's no wrong thought that you can have out there, right? There's no consequence to that thought. And it's just, you're allowing that to exist. Anyway, yeah. So the biggest tip I can tell people is be patient. Work the process and work it slowly. Recognize you're learning something new. You don't learn
Mhm.
a language in a day or a week or a month. Right? It
Right.
takes time.
Definitely. And I'm sure you've gotten this over the decades that you've been teaching and things of that nature, of where they just assume it's easy for you and that you never have like that, like you have these effortless runs, and it's like, no, sometimes they're downright ugly. And it's like, I swear, the more years that I run, at times I'm like, God, I felt like I never have ran a day in my life when I went out on that training run. And it's like,
Yeah, that
but
was
it's
yesterday,
kind of, you
right?
accept the ups and downs, and it's part of the process.
Yeah, I have tens of thousands of miles underneath me, literally. I mean, I stopped counting, but I used to track it, but less so now. It's just less important. At least it's less important to me. Some people love streaks and
Right.
things along those lines. I think that's great. But like, I ran yesterday. It was hot, and it was a hilly run, and I was like, God, have I ever done this sport before? Like, ever? And that's the nature of it, right? And if we could ever figure out how to make it good all the time, that's great. But I think that's the challenge. Is it's not always, it's like anything in life, it's not always going to be good, right? But
Mhm.
you keep putting one foot in front of the other, because more often than not it is good, right? And
Right.
then you take the downsides, you reflect on them. It's like, okay, that was really challenging. What can I take from this?
Definitely. And I think too, as the miles build, what I have found is, I mean, I've been a pretty clean eater, but as those miles build, talk about no desire for the junk of just like someone went past me with McDonald's, and it was at the end of like a really hot 20 miler. And I was just like, I
Oh
felt
yeah.
like I was like dry heaves of like, oh my God.
And we used to
And
do
so
this.
it,
Yeah, we used to do this race in Utah during the 24th of July. It's a holiday in the state of Utah. I don't live there now, but you'd come down the marathon. It would come down the parade route, and this is the largest parade in Utah, and people would be barbecuing on the
mm,
streets, and they'd have all of these foods and all of these, and all I could think is like, and you're at 24 miles at this point, and the smells and the food. It's like, normally it'd be like, oh, this is great. And all you could do
oh,
is like,
right.
okay, I'm not going to throw up, not going to throw up. Really, I'm not going to throw up. It sounds terrible, but yeah, I mean, it to some degree, it can inspire like the clean eating. It can make you, it makes you, I think, I would argue it makes you more self-aware, because if you want
Right.
to do well at it, and you want to enjoy it, then the other tangible factors that impact that, which is, sleep, or you're talking about recovery, hydration,
Mhm.
food, nutrition, all of those things play a role, right?
Definitely. Well, and I think too, it's one of those I consciously do. It's like you crave the real foods to really give you the energy, because
Mhm.
we've had runs with a lot of energy and runs where you feel like you're just getting by, and it's just like, I'll take this one, please.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm always talking about the virtues and how endurance running ties into competitive businesses such as commercial real estate, pacing, consistency, endurance, all those things. How do you see it, endurance running connecting in with big careers?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover. I think that, we touched on this a little bit. It's about building, one is understanding what your overall objective is. So the way I've been taught to do things is like we look at my objective is over here, and then I work backwards from that. Right. It's like, okay, so
Right.
this is where I know I need to get to. So I'm going to start at that point and I'm going to build this program backwards to where I currently am. Right. So that's
Right.
one thing is identifying, what this is, and then starting to understand what the obstacles are along the way. So like identifying those is like, well, I know I have this and this and this are going to be obstacles that I'm going to have to develop processes to work either through those or around those, or to think outside the box a little bit on what those things represent. But then it's also building effective processes to get you to where you want to go. So I'm really process oriented. So
Right.
if you're looking at like, whether any business or anything else is you have to understand where it is that you want to go. You also have to identify what things you do well, and then take a look at your blind spots on things that you know that you don't do very well, and then you drive into those pieces, right? Because those are the things, like the things you do well, we're all good at that. Like I'm really good at putting one foot in front of the other and getting, like I can get out and run. The
Right.
strength training, the foam rolling, the all of the other stuff that I know I need to be doing that I don't particularly enjoy. I know that's a blind spot for me, right? I know that that's
Mhm.
where I need to lean into those things if I'm going to get to where I want to go. But you have to be reflective enough to be able to open the door to where those weaknesses are. You have to be strategic that way. And as far as competition goes, then you need to be super strategic. It's like, okay, this is like I'm going to play to my strengths, but I'm going to try to mitigate my weaknesses along the way. So to me, that's the crossover is like, you know, coaching or building a process or getting a really competitive result is a byproduct of how well you prepared for that, right? And what you've
Mhm.
identified, and not only the things that you're good at, but the things you're really not very good at, and how you're going to put tools into place to mitigate those weaknesses.
Definitely. All right, so I'm going to throw you a curveball. We hear about AI in all these
Yeah.
different industries. How do you see it interplaying with marathoning, endurance running? Like, do you see it coming into aspects of training with clients, or what are you seeing on that realm?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I love AI, to be honest. AI is, but this is the caveat. AI is only as good as what you can ask it. So you have to have a baseline level of knowledge to know what to ask it. Then you have to be able to know how to fact check it to know that the information that you're getting back is actually valuable. And this is what's killing a lot of runners is so they're like, build me a marathon program. Right. If you don't know the parameters of all of the different aspects, then it can hamstring you because it's going to be great or it's
Oh,
not.
yeah.
For me personally, is I think that how do I use it? I pull data from clients all the time that have all this physiological data. I pull those in, and as far as like race planning is the best example I can give you is I take that physiological data, I overlay it on the course profiles, which are all available,
Mm.
and then I put in all of the other variables that I want, and then I have it help me to understand based on this person's physiology, how is it likely going to play out on this course, given these environmental factors? These are things that AI can do at a speed that I mean, I can do them, but it's at a speed
Right.
that is unbelievable. Where
Right.
I think AI falls short is especially, and again, this is going to be, I'll have a bias because I'm a coach, right? I mean, that's how I make my
Mhm.
living. What it can't do is the communication piece. It can't understand the human emotion. It can't understand when somebody's having a bad day. It can't understand how to adapt in real time to human beings are unbelievably irrational, right? We have not a
Okay.
single sense of logic to anything that we do. We respond to on emotion. AI is a logic-based model, right? It
Right.
looks at patterns. Well, human beings are inherently terrible at following patterns, right? I mean, we have these
Mhm.
behavior patterns, but we're not rational. And so for me as a coach, like AI has been tremendously helpful to help me solve problems. Like, okay, well, these are the things that I'm dealing with. What are my options? To help cope with. That's great. It's a tool for me. Where and how I utilize that is it saves me time so that I can spend more time face to face with you and say,
Right.
let's talk about where you are. Let's talk about what you want. Let's talk about how real life is impacting what it is that you actually want to do. So yeah, I think AI, it's here to stay. Let's be really clear. And so as a
Oh,
coach, either I'm
definitely.
going to adopt it or I'm going to be left behind, right? And it's finding ways to integrate that in the things that I already do. And it saves me a huge amount of time on the programming side of things, right? Because I can ask it all. I can, I can say, I need a solution for these following variables, right? And then I'm
Right.
smart enough to be able to say, okay, well that's stupid. That's never going to work. But then again,
Right.
only as good as what you know how to ask it.
Right. What you put in, you get out, definitely. So if people wanted to work with you, Scott, do you work throughout the United States or are you
Yeah,
um
yeah, I work
based
worldwide.
in-
So I live in Los Angeles. As obviously you can see, I don't know anybody else, but it's a nice, beautiful day in LA.
right?
It's always nice in LA. Yeah, I
Mhm.
work globally. So I have clients right now. I don't think I have anybody international. No, but I have people all over the US. The way I work is we do sit on Zoom just like this, or if I happen to be where you are, then, and I'm going to be in Chicago, by the way, so I'll try to look you up when I'm there because I'm
I'm in
coaching out.
Wisconsin, but I'm
Ah,
racing in
yeah, you're
Chicago.
racing in Chicago. Yeah, so
Beautiful
I'll be
Wisconsin
there. I'll be
winters,
there for.
Scott.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, no, thank you. I'll be down. I'll be in Chicago for the marathon. So I have
Oh,
athletes running
very
there.
good.
So yeah, my wife and I'll be there.
That's
So
great.
yeah. So yeah, so the way I work with people is
Hmm.
almost exclusively over Zoom, text, whatever it is. Difference, I'd say, point of differentiation, if you want to know what makes me a little bit different, is that I don't limit the communications I have with people. Like it's like, hey, you can check in once a week or every other week. That
Hmm.
doesn't work. You reach me as you need to reach me. That's how it works. Is the cornerstone of everything I do is built on communication and trust. If we're not talking, it ain't working. That's just it. As far as programming goes, that's the easy part, right? It's
Right.
the psychology part of it. That's the part that's going to make the difference. Like anybody can follow a training plan. How you adapt that training plan to real life situations, there's an art form
Hmm.
in that.
Oh, definitely. And especially if you're having anything that's bothering you or adjusting. And I'm sure I would anticipate that there's more communications too as you get closer to race day, just fine tuning different things, or is that not the
Yeah,
case?
it really is. Yeah, there's fine tuning things, and like people,
Hmm.
like, or if you're dealing with injury related issues, like
Hmm.
my master's is in corrective exercise, so I have,
Oh,
sort of a lot
perfect.
of solutions that revolve around like my all of the strength training programs I do are based in customizing it based on the needs of the individual. But as we
Mhm.
approach race day, communications increase, and a lot of it is about less about the physical side because like as you get close to race day everybody has everything that
Mhm.
hurts, right? Because that's sort of the
Right.
the taper flu. Like I'm
Right.
getting sick, this hurts, that hurts, is that's your body's way of just sort of getting ready, but it's tamping
Yeah.
down the anxiety levels that rise, and managing in sport we call it arousal. Is managing that level so that we stay in the inverted U, we stay in the right place to keep you from getting over anxious, which is mostly what people fight, is getting super nervous and then measuring that back down just a little bit and focusing on executing the plan that we develop.
Perfect. Well, this has been a true joy. I could talk to you forever.
Oh
But
yeah, no, I love this. So I'm a talker for sure.
yeah, well, I'm right there with you. So how do people connect with you, Scott?
Best thing is just to go to the website runwithapro.com. That's the easiest way. My calendar's right there. You can just book through there. My contact information, or Scott at sbrowningpt.com for email if you want to reach out that way. So, but website's easiest. Runwithapro.com or
Perfect.
LinkedIn. I'm there too. That's how you found me.
Definitely. Right. Exactly. I enjoyed LinkedIn. I've connected with so many great people. It's really nice. But
Oh,
Scott,
it's
thank you.
fantastic.
I know,
Yes.
isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
thank goodness for it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
thank
I
you so
appreciate
much for
you.
joining me
Appreciate you having
today.
me on. Yes. Yeah. All right.
Definitely.
Good luck in Chicago, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.